Righty. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Show. You know the old saying, whenever you see a dancing skeleton, you know you're in for one heck of a show. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and joining us tonight is first of all, there is my good friend, the godfather of the Banff family of podcasts, Mr. Mike Lafferty. Hello, Mike.
Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We certainly appreciate it.
All righty, and also hopefully joining us. All right, here you go. Here you go. I'm gonna push this button and see if this helps. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes. And coming to us through the miracle of the internet, Mr. Jason Walters. Jason, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Jason Walters, bookseller, game seller, and sometimes author for Ghost Show Press.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it with all you've done. Appreciate that you have us in there. All righty. Well, for those of you who this may be your first time at the show, you were greeted by our majestic theme, Dracula and the Temple of Funk, one of my favorites. And
it was a lot of trouble getting together the old Tonight Show band to play that for us. I was really happy we were able to.
All right. And the reason we're doing this is because my publishing imprint, Ghost Show Press, we are currently kickstarting the second volume of a series we call Everyone's Gone to the Movies, where the best, funniest, most talented writers I can find all pick a film that breaks the rules of a certain genre, and takes about 2,000 words to discuss why they appreciate the film, some things you may not have noticed about it, and why it does something that had never been done before. Volume 1, which is this sexy beast here, was on transgressive horror. And for those of y'all that might be thinking about, well, what is the physical media on this looks like? Here you go. Okay, you know, nice, sturdy hardcover book. I try to get somebody to come over so I could hit them on the head with it to show you how sturdy this is. It won't take a bullet like a Hero System rule book, but still in all, you know, I think good reading material and a solid self-defense option if you need that. Now this contains 31 essays. The second volume, Subversive Sci-Fi, which we are currently kickstarting right now, we are set up to have 37 essays in it, so it will be like this, only thicker, and I'd like to think deadlier. And if you're interested in supporting said project, I just dropped the link into the comments there. And again, we are the only place on the internet where you can read the comments safely, because it's all our cool fans and us talking about how to support our project. And while I was opening up the medicine show, sneaking in the back door is Mr. Bill Bodden. Mr. Bill Bodden, welcome. You want to introduce yourself to the folks?
Sure. I'm Bill Bodden. I've written a bunch of stuff for tabletop role-playing games. I also had an essay in the first volume. Mine was covering the film Congo. And in this volume, I talk about the film Brazil by Terry Gilliam.
All righty. Yes. Okay. So, again, and here we go. Sean, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. If you have any questions, Sean, throw them into the comments, please. I'm still getting used to being at the big board, but I will try to keep an eye on the comments so to get you into this, especially now I know how to project them. Okay, there you go.
That is Sean Vera, longtime commenter, and he was on the podcast last year about this time. So yeah, good to see you.
Yes, and if we fund, hopefully have him back on. All righty. Okay. Well, all right. So. And speaking of the campaign, if you guys would like to get it, if you would like to back us or increase your pledge, most of the upper level stuff is still there. We still have slots open where if you don't like the lineup of films we have because it's missing X, you can back us at one of two super levels, and we'll write about the movie you want us to write about. So there you go. We will literally make the book for you. And we also have reward levels where you can come on the podcast and join us and share weird theories about weird movies. You know, we got to do an exclusive George Romero chat. We got to talk about the Glory of the Tremors series. Although, Jason, I guess where you live, Tremors is like a documentary, right?
Yeah, more or less. I do live precisely where what Tremor and exactly the kind of community Tremors is alluding to, making fun of, referencing. I do think if you see Tremors 2, the scene where the feds pull up and say they're the feds, and the multiple reactions they get out of 3 characters, if you remember, is very typical of where I live.
Oh my goodness!
You know, if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, if we go ahead and if the fans were to go ahead and back at an advanced level and request a particular essay be written, do they get to request who writes it?
That is, I would be happy to listen to such a request were it presented to me, but normally it's whoever I can get. But they have my every assurance that I won't ask someone to write it if I did not think that they were somebody that is well suited for the film. You know, like if somebody requests a film which is basically, you know, like tourists being flayed alive, I'm not going to tackle that one. No,
That seems to be a genre.
Yeah. yeah.
I guess what we're saying is we would prefer that people don't commission an essay for punitive or masochistic reasons. Sadistic reasons.
Well, but that's where it gets interesting because if they were deliberately trying to send us a quote unquote bad film, you know, if somebody tries to throw like a blood freak at us or you know, creation of the humanoids, that's where I feel like my misspent life could be put to good use. You know, because I've always said I have a doctoral thesis ready to go about the movie they made based on C.W. McCall's 1976 novelty hit Convoy. The Sam Peckinpah film they made for that. I have like a PhD worthy thesis on that. So
Chris Christopherson and Ali McGraw, right?
Yes, and Ernest Borgnine.
Oh,
I mean, it's
sure.
It's one of those movies where you look at that cast and you go, "Wow, they got all those people and they decided to make this."
Maybe Volume 3 is about weird 70s vehicle-centric movies.
That
could be something, man.
I'm planning like Volume 55. We'll get into like vansploitation and stuff like that.
What was that one post-apocalyptic movie where they were driving weird APCs? I can't. It was probably more than one. So
there's a couple.
Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, please. If you have somebody to say
Damnation Alley, perhaps.
Yes, that was the one. So.
Did that go on to become like a 1970s TV series called Ark?
The vehicle.
You know what I'm talking about?
The vehicle.
Ark 2 with the
Ark
chimp.
2. Yeah.
Yes.
They kind of drive a futuristic RV across the wasteland.
I don't know if I should be as proud of this as I should, but one of the first uses I made of the internet is I went to see if that was the same vehicle, and I found out they are not, but they were made by the same guy.
Oh, okay. I was mistaken
okay.
then. All right. You know, one time my brother was working at remember when they used to have those little booths in the middle of parking lots where you go drop off your film and you come back a few days later?
Yeah, the photo man.
My brother used to work at one. So I would wind up seeing most of the pictures he thought were interesting that get developed there. And one day he came home and he had pictures of somebody working on the Star Trek's one of the shuttlecraft, the Galileo, in their metal shop. No other details about it. It was just like finding this, you know, artifact from, you know, your favorite religion or whatever, you know, on somebody's, random vacation photos. It's kind of crazy.
The bridge set was in a junkyard someplace, and somebody found it and rescued like the captain's chair and a couple of the consoles. It was pretty amazing. They got it for peanuts, and now it's like I think it's part of a museum at the moment.
I'd imagine.
And
Oh, yeah, but no.
the story that I heard was he kept the captain's chair in his basement and like spent like 20 years just watching football games and stuff in it before it was it Paul Allen acquired it for the science fiction museum in Seattle.
That seems likely. Yeah, he's got more money than God, so
He did, yeah.
And we have a comment from Mr. Vera.
Yes. All right. Okay. Yes. I was just getting it. All right, here we go. All righty. Let's see here. The Time Travelers. Yes. I can speak to this, but anybody else want to tackle the time travel?
I have not seen it.
I've never heard of this.
That was on Mystery Science Theater 3000, wasn't it?
Yes. I actually saw it before then, but yes, that's probably where, if it has any fame left these days, it's there. Yes.
I seem to remember a lot of action in a suburban home. Like a lot. A lot. Like most of it.
Well, it's from that glorious era of science fiction where everything looks like it was shot in somebody's basement, with like the very few rare big studio exceptions. Okay, Time Travelers. I want to know about the Time Travelers. Time Travelers was a brainchild of one of the great unsung heroes of science fiction, a guy named Ib Melchior, who really would make a heck of a movie all by himself, because his early adult experiences were in the Danish resistance during World War II. So, I mean, there's a movie, I think, just in that.
Maybe several.
Yes. And he wound up responsible for a lot of projects, all of which went astray. Like, he had a great script for a Godzilla set in Denmark that got turned
Reptilicus.
Reptilicus, yes.
Reptilicus, baby. Reptilicus. Yes. I was about to ask about that.
Speaking of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and really,
Reptilicus.
You owe it to yourself to watch at least 5 minutes of Reptilicus to see this puppet, which reminds people of my age of the dragon from Kukla, Fran, and Ollie on like a drunken like meth binge. And just when, yes.
What disturbs me about Reptilicus is and where my suspension of disbelief fails is if I'm drilling for oil in the frozen north and I hit meat.
Yes.
First thing I do is just pack up my drilling equipment and leave. I'm like, oh, we've seemed to hit meat, sir. We'll go to a different island in Norway. No more drilling.
It's a tail or a tentacle. It doesn't bode well.
Yeah. Now, no meat. Let's leave.
If we haven't already sold you on this film, in addition to what you've seen, there's also a guy in there whose name I cannot pronounce, but he is literally the Jerry Lewis of Denmark. So every now and again, your puppet monster action will grind to a halt while he does like the Danish equivalent of, "Hey, lady, I'm falling up a ladder with that thing." And then,
which isn't nearly that animated.
Yes. Yeah. Just when you think this film can't bombard your brain from another possible angle, there's a bit that actually got cut out of the MST version. The film got the full cooperation of the Copenhagen city government on the condition that as much as possible it promotes Danish tourism. So there's like this 10-minute break in the middle of the film where the American commander gets shown the sights of modern growing Copenhagen, a great city to relocate your business to, as well as to go on vacation. And it's like this 10-minute little travelogue with this like pleasant Danish pop song.
Wow, no, they did cut that out. I've never seen that part.
You just sit there like, wait, didn't this used to be a monster movie?
We seem to have gotten off the track a little bit here. We're talking about Reptilicus, and
you got to do what you got to do
about the Time Travelers.
Yeah. All right. So he writes Melchior writes the short story that Death Race 2000 is based on. He went to Fox, pitched them a show about a science fiction version of Space Family Robinson, which got rejected until Irwin Allen came back with the exact same premise and made a go of it, using allegedly a good bit of what Melchior had pitched. But in the middle of getting screwed out of Lost in Space, he comes up with the Time Travelers. And the neat thing about this movie was he thought, okay, how do I do a film with like decent looking special effects on a budget. So they literally build the film around magician tricks. So it's somebody who turned a magic show into a science fiction movie. And now I'm hoping somebody asks me to write about it, because I think I just came up with my angle I would use for the book. Now, for what Italian film it's reminding you of, I don't. Okay, here's where I'm going to have to defer to my panel here. All my Italian sci-fi it's all like guys in rocket ships having rocket ship battles. Is there an Italian time travel movie that I'm missing?
The only Italian sci-fi I know is Super Fuzz, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Bodden and Mr. Walters beneath me.
So the actor, I have a signed picture of him around here somewhere, better known as Black Cobra. William. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'll be right back.
Alrighty. Here's where I wish I could find that Danish travelogue music here.
Well, apparently the Chinese version of Looper with Bruce Willis had an extended period where Bruce Willis.
Fred Williamson. Fred Williamson.
The Hammer Williamson. God.
Fred Williamson here. Autographed picture, gentlemen. Autographed picture.
Hammer. Oh my gosh.
Fred Williamson. Nice guy. Met him once. Super nice guy. Wasn't he making a lot of Italian, like, just almost random Italian action films in the 70s, like post-apocalyptic science fiction, swashbuckling, swords and sorcery? I mean, he must have. God, what a great excuse to stay in Italy for a decade. I think he was there a long time.
Oh yeah.
Could we be thinking of a Fred Williamson film? Because I seem to remember one with a lot of dirt bikes and a quarry, time travel or something that I don't remember.
Yeah, he's been in more Mad Max ripoffs than
there must have been one with time travel.
Yeah. Just I don't know, Sean, but I just throwing out a possibility. Even though Time Travelers was made in America for American International, the fact that Melchior shot it does have like a subtle European vibe. Not overseas, like Journey to the Seventh Planet, or but maybe there's a little European vibe there. The only thing I can think of there. But thank you for your question. Yes. All righty. I don't know how to follow that you met Fred the Hammer Williamson.
I met him at he was a guest of honor at Gen Con SoCal. And Peter Atkinson was walking through Gen Con SoCal with him. There might be a slight height disparity there between Peter and Fred Williamson, let alone between me and Fred Williamson. But if Peter stood on my shoulders, we might be able to carry on a face-to-face conversation with Fred Williamson. And he introduced me. Super nice guy. I think when he eventually stopped acting, he became an architect, if I remember correctly.
He was actually an architect before he started. Yeah. He actually got his first acting gig. He was at Paramount visiting some people that he knew in the commissary there, and one of the production assistants on the original Star Trek recognized him and walked up and said, "Hey, we need somebody to kick Bill Shatner's ass in this next scene. Are you free?"
Who could turn that down?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so that's why Fred Williamson pops up in the episode The Cloudminders for like 2 minutes. All he does is kick the shit out of Shatner, and
How long was the line to kick William Shatner's ass? You gotta think.
It started behind James Doohan and George Takei, and just.
So we have a response from Mr. Vera in the comments.
Okay, here we go. All right, we're going to sit this over here, take a look at it here. Okay, late 70s in Canada. Alrighty. Okay, yeah, international stuff. Okay, that may be a little bit before Fred headed overseas.
I've got a slight correction, Chris.
Okay.
His first television appearance was in Ironside, where he played a detective. 1968. I'm looking at his filmography. And by the way, everybody, his filmography is huge. I've never seen anything. He's still making films.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ain't that a man right there? Look at this filmography. It's amazing.
All right, now I got to look at this because
Just go on Wikipedia.
yeah.
It's just amazing.
Okay. All right. When you're done, you're obligated to tell us your favorite Fred Williamson film when you've gone through his credits.
All right. I will be silent, amazingly, for a moment and have a look.
Well, Bill's looking. I'm just giving him
Yeah,
a
I'm
homework
looking right
to get
now.
done with this. Always professoring. All right. Okay. All righty. So
I read a piece this week about the Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
the Gilliam film.
Yeah. Specifically, the actress who played the young girl in that film, and she apparently felt her life was in danger several times during the filming of it. And some other actors who were on the set said, yes, that's true. It was very poorly run, and we're lucky no one died.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Has anyone on this panel here seen that movie? Is it worth checking out? Really? Okay.
It's much like a lot of Gilliam's work is that it's really it's very very much you're either going to like it or not. There's no middle ground.
Well, I was a big fan of Brazil, and I liked. Oh my God, what was the last one? Boy, not the last.
What has he done? It's 12 Monkeys, Time Bandits,
The something of Dr. Parnassus.
which I haven't seen.
Yeah, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Imaginarium.
Yeah, that was the one where Heath Ledger died. So there were like three other actors who filled in for him. But no, I get what I like his work. I get what he's going for. Sometimes I think his reach exceeds his grasp, but I've always enjoyed his movies.
Sure.
So, but yeah, apparently there were some explosions that just happened like right next to her, which probably shouldn't have. But okay, well, interesting stuff. Interesting. Let me ask.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, after you, sir.
No, I think my favorite Gilliam moment is one you actually have to dig for. He did the fantastic adaptation of Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes,
And
that's right.
Alex Cox had taken a stab at it before, and under the original Writers Guild rules, they were going to force Gilliam to share screen credit as the writer, even though he didn't use any of Cox's stuff beyond the fact that they adapted the same book. So he appealed it, went to like the Supreme Court of the Writers Guild, but just in case he lost, he actually filmed like a 3-minute prologue that would have opened the film, talking about how now this film credits Alex Cox as a writer, and I'm just here to tell you Alex Cox didn't do shit on this film that you're getting ready to watch, but I'm forced to credit him.
I'm going to go with a favorite Fred Williamson film that I think also answers Sean's question.
Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead, please.
I'm going to go with the 1982 Italian swords and motorcycles film, Warriors of the Wasteland. I think that's what Sean's talking about. Hold on. Oh yeah, look, Fred Williamson's got this wonderful compound bow with optics on it.
The one they did on Mystery Science Theater 3000 with the guy from Paper Chase.
I don't know, because I've seen it for real and not on Mystery Science Theater 3000. I've seen it in its pristine form, but I recognize the whole movie now from looking at the poster here on Wikipedia.
Well, I've seen both films. I don't know if I could confuse the time travelers for that movie.
Oh well.
But
that is my favorite Fred Williamson film, though, by far.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's a lot to be said for the scene where the obnoxious CGI, the obnoxious talking motorcycle gets crushed to death on screen. That's very satisfying. And hey, here we go. We got a surprise run-in guests.
Hey,
Alex.
everybody.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
Alrighty. Well,
Good to
this
see
is
you, sir.
I'm glad to finally meet you.
Yeah. Sorry I'm late. Holiday stuff.
Yay. Well, listen, we were just rambling on about Fred Williamson movies and other assorted random topics, but let's get back on point. If you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself for the folks, and if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about what you're doing for Subversive Sci-Fi.
Sure. I'm Alex Bledsoe. I'm a fantasy and horror novelist, and I'm writing about an East German film from 1972 called Eolomea. And it's okay if you've never heard of it, because I hadn't even heard of it, until recently. I had seen another East German film done as a Mystery Science Theater episode, and that looked so interesting. I thought, well, I wonder what the original version looks like. So I found it, but the only way to get it was in a box set of other East German stuff. So I ordered it, and it was a First Spaceship on Venus, which was actually, their title was The Silent Star, which kind of tied in with the anti-nuclear theme of the movie. But accompanying this was Eolomea, and that one just blew me away. I had never seen a lot of East German stuff. My knowledge of communist science fiction kind of begins and ends with Tarkovsky. But this one was just amazing. It's set in an unspecified future, but people still smoke and drink and wear ties to work. And they have a space station where spaceships are disappearing. And the main character is this woman named Maria, and she is amazing for a 1972 era heroine. She is unapologetically in charge. She gets no guff from anybody for being a woman, and she's allowed to both be very good at her job and to have a valid social life, and there's no conflict between the two. She's not forced to make a choice or anything. And much more than the plot or even the special effects, which are pretty good. This thing was shot on 70 millimeter, but the DVD doesn't do it justice. But more than any of the background stuff, that is what makes this what I would consider transgressive. Is that when around the same time we had no women in our science fiction that were anywhere near as assertive and accomplished as Maria is in this one. So that's the subject of my essay.
Yes, I owe you so much for last week because Jason hit me with this great question of what is your favorite Eastern Bloc sci-fi film. and I actually got to say, well, funny you mentioned that. Alex just introduced me to what is probably so public thanks for the save here.
Anytime.
All righty. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Now, I'm big enough to admit I had not heard of this film until you pitched to me and read your essay. Anybody else? Is this new to everybody else on the panel?
Totally. Never heard of it before.
Completely new.
I mean, you honestly, your essay does everything I want this book series to do. It's something I wasn't familiar with, and after I read your piece, I wanted to see it.
Well, that's the point of these, is to get people to go and look these things up, or to look at it, or even if it's something they've seen, to see it in a new way.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You see, because we were mulling around like what volume 3 should be, and somebody threw fantasy out there. Like, oh, great! I will tell you why Pulp Fiction is a fantasy film. So I may do it. May do that for volume 3. Just okay. If I can be talked into not believing that a fantasy volume wouldn't be just a knife fight over the Lord of the Rings films.
Honestly, I think we could even exclude Lord of the Rings, and I mean, There's plenty of quirky fantasy in the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s you could talk about.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we could
think there's
talk
some
about the
merit to the-
70s version of Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely.
Only ever half completed.
Yeah.
If we could do that for the audiobook, because to me, you're just not watching it unless you're hearing the songs. Because
Where there's a whip, there's a way. It's a classic.
yes, like 40 years, I don't remember anything except Roddy McDowall is in it and the music. Some of the songs I could do like whole bridges. I won't, but like whole verses of.
Orson Bean is in it.
Yes.
Oh,
Now, is that
God, who's the guy who did
TV version
Thor?
of The Hobbit, isn't it?
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
or,
you're right.
Or Return of the King. That's not the
Return of the
Ralph
King is the one that was
Bakshi.
rotoscoped. Yeah, it was back. That was Bakshi too.
That was- yeah.
Bakshi. Yes.
Yeah, you could do
Uh,
that.
as-
I
The
mean,
Hobbit. The Hobbit was Rankin Bass, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
I think the Return of the King was too.
Hmm.
And whoever was
Maybe.
singing in that had that vibrato in their voice
Yes.
that I just can't stand.
There's, you think about it. There's quite a lot of subversive 70s fantasy to choose from. I mean, we could probably talk about that if you'd like to, Chris.
that's what I'm saying. There's so many little sword and sandal, sword and sorcery movies that
Yeah.
got made in that time frame.
How about Wizards?
Wizards.
Oh,
right
Wizards is
now,
a
yeah.
great choice. Yeah.
That would be that's why I'm glad I have Pulp Fiction, because otherwise I would have to fight for wizards like drowning people fighting over flotation devices. I just as far as that's so far and above my favorite sword and sorcery film. It just,
Well,
remember
I would take Dragon Slayer from '79,
Oh
my God.
Yeah,
nice.
good film.
Yeah.
where both the princesses die.
yeah, it's so funny. I can't say that I love the film that much, but it hit box offices right about the time of the great D&D boom, and it just seems to me that if half the kids buying that red box set at their local KB Toys or B Dalton had gone to see that movie,
Yeah.
that would have been a major hit. But just to be doing a dragon slaying movie in the middle of the D&D film, and it's gone down the memory hole of even the Gen Xers. That's kind of an anti-achievement.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's subversive, but I've always thought Fire and Ice is a very sexy movie. Like it's very what are the words? What's the word I'm looking for? Very
Tasty.
I think Bocce's idea of rotoscoping is best fulfilled in that movie with the least possible amount of clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and Wizards were literally the two I
Voluptuous.
was thinking of when I was talking about weird 70s and 80s fantasy movies we could talk about. But I mean, there are so many. The Sword and the Sorcerer, Cull the Conqueror, and Beastmaster. There's a bunch of others.
Beastmaster was 82.
Beastmaster.
So
Yeah.
it slides out of the 70s limitation, but I think we can go 70s and 80s pretty comfortably. Brings in a lot of other stuff that way.
Well, if we get into the 80s, and a lot of the 90s, you can get in Xena, which is arguably pretty subversive in a few different ways. But there might be a kettle of fish you don't want to open. I don't know.
Well, and that was a TV show, not a film.
Well,
Right,
that's true.
so-
Yeah.
Here's a philosophical question.
Okay.
What if the movie we pick for being subversive is a made-for-TV movie?
Well, it's funny. You're the second person this week to ask me that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with anything that's feature length, because the first book was such a delight, but one of the few heartbreaks I had along the way was I had a guy lined up to write about the original Night Stalker movie with Darren McGavin and Barry Atwater and Simon Oakland.
Yeah.
And he's an actual Vegas resident, So it's like he had all these great local stories about it, and unfortunately, COVID and stuff hit, and that fell apart. And that's kind of the great lost one from the great as the first book is. That's the one I would have loved to have snuck in there. And my friend Seth Johnson for Subversive Sci-Fi is doing the feature-length original BBC version of Max Headroom. So yeah.
Which I didn't realize that was a film. I thought it was a television series. So I'm intrigued to read about that.
I thought it was a commercial.
Yeah. In fact,
was that too?
Yeah. In fact, one of my favorite things about Seth's essays, he has a great little story about finding the feature length version, which never actually got broadcast in America at this like rundown video store.
Hey, Chris, do we have anyone writing about Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park?
Okay, all right, okay, not to offend any non-religious people, but I have two prayers at night. Number one, that this will fund. Number two, that one of our backers will pick Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, because I will be all over that. I have seen and possessed copies of both versions. This is one I will be all over.
Well, I've been debating funding that level, and if I do, I'll either pick that or the Star Wars Holiday Special, depending on the result of the coin flip. Forgive me in advance.
Was that feature length the Holiday Special?
Yes.
Damn it. I thought
a brief moment of local trivia.
Had an out for us.
Yes, sir.
Matt Frewer, also known as Max Headroom, was one of the stars in one of the very few movies ever made where I lived, which is a very bad movie called Far From Home. But he is in it.
Oh, yeah. He
made in the town of 200 people in which I live. So
with the kid from Christmas Story, right?
Yes.
There'll be a day I don't remember like my father's middle name, but I'll still have the cast of Far From Home still in my brain.
Yeah. But we should say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Yes, indeed. Happy Father's Day to all dads, stepdads, adoptive dads, dog dads, cat dads, pet dads. If you've taken on the responsibility, respect from this militantly childless individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a Star Wars themed Father's Day card, and I was thinking,
not
a lot of great dads in Star Wars. Mainly in the background. I mean, the saga itself is kind of about people failing the test of fatherhood.
Well, isn't that based?
Bail
Organa.
Well, there you go.
I would say that was it Uncle is the Uncle Ben?
Uncle Owen.
Uncle Owen? Yes.
Yeah.
I would say Uncle Owen was giving it his best shot.
I would say. And obviously Din Djarin in The Mandalorian, he's becoming a father. So that's something. So anyway,
I never really see who his Din Djarin's father figure was in The Mandalorian. So that's possibly a solid influence.
He could have been a great guy before he was killed by those droids. So we just don't know.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to take us down the Star Wars.
I meant him growing up as part of the Mandalorian cult.
Fair enough.
So in The Mandalorian, is Din Djarin's father the blacksmith then?
No. The armor is a lady who's just the leader leader of his particular sect.
And Rogue One.
Didn't the armor a raisin, basically? I mean, just curious. Don't really know.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if they really say. I mean,
it's never made clear who raised him after his birth parents were killed by the droids and he was rescued.
Yeah, they say he was adopted by the Mandalorians, but they don't really get into hey, it was this particular guy. It's very much like a 70s Western where they don't give a whole lot of details or backstory. It's more about what's happening right now. But
one thing you can say for sure, living in the Republic is a lot like living in Ireland up until modern times, is that you have to always be prepared to give one child to the church.
Oh wow.
Because the Jedi take them young, don't they? That kid's 7, too old for the church.
Okay.
I've never really gotten into Star Wars, but just now you planted this whole image of like a couple of robe guys come out of nowhere and say like, yeah, we're totally like Jedis, and we want your child.
Yep.
No problem.
No, it's best for everyone. It's best for everyone if the child comes with us.
Jeez.
Yeah, I have so many friends who get really upset about Star Wars, and I love it, but it's got way more bad movies than good movies in my view. And I just embrace the fact that it's really designed to sell toys, like a lot of entertainment from that time frame. I think if you embrace that fact about it, everything starts to make sense.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry, go ahead, please.
I'm looking forward to having a Danny Trejo action figure. I've never really bought for myself Star Wars action figures. But now that I know there will be a Danny Trejo and there will be a Werner Herzog action figure, now I want to own some action figures.
I'm
Yes.
hoping now that David Cronenberg has been on Star Trek, he'll get an action figure too. And there you go. I have an excuse to start another collection.
I want the Herzog one to have like a string on the back and you pull it. It gives Herzog quotes.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the baby.
Oh, Mike, I think you in that last thesis you may have put out maybe possibly the fundamental difference between Star Trek and Star Wars fans. Star Wars fans are phenomenally loyal. I mean, they will bitch about certain projects, but they'll damn sure gonna go see them and buy the discs and stream them. Star Trek fans, there are like big portions of that franchise that are just dead to them. They will boycott stuff they feel isn't real Star Trek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean Ver has an interesting comment involving Harlan Ellison in the comments.
Oh my God, yes. Hey, ever hear about the Star Lost? Oh God. Okay. As a guy who owns the complete series on disc,
Wow.
and sat down and watched it from start to finish. Wow, it is. Yeah, you have seen high school plays with higher budgets than the Star Lost.
Ouch.
And it's done in, except for I think one or two of the leads, it's entirely Canadian actors, and it's the kind of Canadian accent that Bob and Doug McKenzie would need subtitles for. It's one where I had to back it up just a couple times. Like, what was that again? Just maple syrup thick accents, and yeah, the special effects are literally done with the same technology they used in the 70s to put the weather map behind your local weatherman.
Oh, chroma key. Yeah.
Yes.
Chroma key.
Yes.
And you can watch them all on YouTube. They're all on YouTube.
Yeah. You
and now
really,
I will.
Yeah. And it's so funny, Alex. I checked out your movie being made in the Eastern Bloc, and it's that these two shows are contemporaries, and your movie is so much better. I mean, it's like you could show this to some future generation back to back, and they would conclude, oh, so the communists clearly won the Cold War, right? I mean, look at this. Look at the difference here.
So, may I mention another series from the same time period that I think is actually a good science fiction series?
That would be a switch for us, but go ahead.
Battleship Yamato, made by the Japanese, the animated series.
Oh, yeah.
Which is deeply melancholy. Deeply like this probably reprehensible longing for lost Japanese military glory, but in space. Except that they actually, dig up the Battleship Yamato from beneath the Sea of Japan and float it out into space. So, highly recommended. Also, all on YouTube, though the Japanese version and the American version called Star Blazers are like weirdly mixed up. So sometimes you get the original, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, Jason, did you see the live action adaptation they did a few years ago?
I did.
What'd you think?
It was I have the same problem with it I have with the recent Star Trek movies, which is it's too good. Like, I don't want that much action. I want mood, and I want lots of slow-paced thinking about the nature of reality and the nature of moral problems. So I rank it as too fast-paced. But I'm in probably 1% of humanity who feels that way. So if you like your films with a lot of action, it's way better than the original.
I think there's a lot of us who grew up in a certain decade who enjoy movies with that kind of pace, and these days they just don't do that so much.
No. Though, again, Dune, the recent Dune,
Yeah.
not in a hurry.
Well, they had a lot of story to cover too. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a dog choking book there. So
you got to give Gilles Villeneuve some credit. He's not in a hurry to get you there. So I liked it.
And was wise.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it a lot.
It was wise enough not to film the entire book in one movie.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Speaking of when we're talking about fantasy, you guys reminded me of like my favorite. You're talking about 70s fantasy. My favorite abortive project, just because the conception of it just makes me go, wow, really. But John Boorman of Deliverance fame had a deal in place to do the Lord of the Rings movies in the 70s, but he was going to do them under these circumstances. He was going to cram all 3 books into one movie and make it work both story-wise and budget-wise by cutting out all the overt magic.
Ha.
That's
And
almost as good an idea as the one where they were going to have the Beatles play.
Yes.
Where, Ringo was going to be Frodo, and Paul and John were going to be Merry and Pippin, and George would be Samwise. That was a great idea.
Oh, you kind of wonder if like the later period Beatles handling it, where John would have insisted Yoko would have been in it.
Well, they need a Gollum.
He's got to play Sauron.
Sorry.
Wow.
That was savage, Alex.
Ouch.
I was gonna make the same joke, but I was holding back. But,
We just lost a viewer. Yoko just logged off here.
I'm sure she's cursing us from her $5 million Manhattan penthouse right now. I don't think we get to laugh last or best.
Yes.
somewhere
Definitely not all the way to the bank, that's for sure.
But to wrap up the Boorman story, while he was scouting locations in Ireland, he gradually talked himself out of doing Lord of the Rings, and the project mutated into Excalibur.
Which I am taking dibs on. If you do a fantasy thing, I get Excalibur.
Here.
Oh,
That's
well,
not-
then I'll
I'll
take
fight
Dragon
for that
Slayer.
I think we're putting together your next anthology, Chris. I'm telling you, fantasy from the
Beastmaster.
70s and 80s is the way to go for that. Beastmaster, you can have it, sir. I think there's a lot of weird stuff to talk about in that movie.
So
What
here's
the
a
hell?
trivia question for you, gentlemen. Do any
Okay.
of you remember a truly bad fantasy, not science fiction, fantasy TV series from the 90s set in 3rd century Ireland, and what it was called?
Roar?
Yes, Roar. Wow, you nailed it immediately. Wow.
Okay, I will cop to that only because those of you who know me know that I know some guys who occasionally grace me with rare videos from rare sources, and I got offered the complete series of Roar today. Right before the
Just
show.
today?
Know that. Yes,
What a
yeah,
weird
literally today.
coincidence.
Yes.
It just fell off the truck down at Best Buy, and
My a good chunk of my internet is basically the excuse that that Otter tries to talk Kent Dorfman in Animal House into giving his brother over his car. You walked out there last night and it was gone. So yes. And Sean, yes, here we go. Sean, yes, Roar, watching it with his D&D group, which I think would be the perfect way to see it all told.
I will point out there are some historical issues with Roar. Like I
find that difficult to believe.
No. I don't think the Romans were chopping at the bit to invade Ireland. In fact, if I remember my Roman history, they were trying to figure out how to unload England at the time.
Exactly so. Yeah. They were like, this was a mistake. We got to get out of here. How do we do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, as a Scotsman, I had, the Romans wisely locked my family behind a wall and tried to keep us there, and I don't blame them a bit. I know my family. That was a good call.
Wasn't there a weird fantasy movie with David Carradine as a wandering swordsman?
There were a couple of those. He was de rigueur at the time.
Circle of Iron.
A lot of science fiction.
Is that the one you're thinking of? He was
Wait.
sort of the mentor guy who would show up and dispense kernels of advice to the guy who was going out and trying to
there was one I
solve
saw.
crimes or something. I don't remember.
Wizards of the Forgotten Kingdom?
It might have been. There was one I saw back in the 90s where he was a traveling swordsman who showed up in a town that was having trouble, and he infiltrated the bad guys.
So that's basically a ripoff of that it's Japanese film that it was a samurai film. Yeah, Yojimbo. Yeah.
And somebody mentioned Deathstalker?
I know there was a Mystery Science Theater 3000, maybe a recent one, and their reboot recently, that David Carradine turns up in the first of their epic 2-part.
Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, yes.
Yes, he is in the first one. Quite a lot.
Yes. And I can tie this into a knot. Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, scripted by writer Ed Naha, who inspired me to become a writer and to whom First Volume of Transgressive Horror is humbly dedicated.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so I can tie that in a knot. Yes. Yeah, and Wizards of the Coast, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. Got to get out of the game industry. The Mystery Science Theater did it, and it is also one of the great lost internet treasures because RiffTrax did it first. But James Horner of Star Trek II and Titanic fame apparently ejected because he does the score for it as one of his early gigs. So it was only available online for like 72 hours. So if you manage to snag a copy of the RiffTrax, you have a little internet treasure there.
Made in Argentina. Was it made in Argentina? Yeah.
If it wasn't now, I want it to be.
Look at that.
So we should probably mention Kickstarter.
Roger Corman was making a bunch of films in Argentina at the time. Huh? It's one of them. What do you know?
Alrighty.
So the Kickstarter has 7 days left and is very close to funding, but this is a great time to jump on that bandwagon. 6 days.
Yes. Let me drop that link into the chat one more time. So yes. So if you tuned in, you enjoy our banner, you enjoy our back and forth, you enjoy our weird, cracked perspective on the movies and knowledge of useless trivia like this, but you want to get that in print form. Please back the Kickstarter at the link there, and please keep it going because I've had the supreme blessing of written what these insanely talented gentlemen have come up with, and it's all fantastic stuff. And it would be a true tragedy if I were the only person that ever got to read them. So please donate, read. You won't be sorry. And as you can see, we've already got some great ideas for volumes 3 through 55. So please.
And please share the link. Share the link far and wide.
Yes. Share, retweet, put it on your MySpace. Put it on a sandwich board, wander the streets of your town, whatever you can do to help us. It's greatly appreciated. And we will make you such a good book in return.
I just thought we should plug that before the hour was up. So David Carradine's in a movie called Circle of Iron, which sounds like this weird supernatural. You guys probably know about this, right?
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that was supposed to be a Bruce Lee movie.
And Bruce Lee
Yeah.
died, so David Carradine took it over, which
Yeah.
shades of what happened in Kung Fu.
Has Eli Wallach cheerily dissolving in a barrel.
Oh gosh.
In a barrel of oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it intertwines a whole lot of philosophy into this movie and different things. Like the Eli Wallach character is basically denying his more carnal instincts by just basically soaking in a barrel of oil to dissolve himself from the waist down. Yeah, so I mean that was one of the lessons that, like, you want to tread the middle path here.
I'm noting it also has Christopher Lee, Roddy McDowall, and James Coburn in it.
It's been a
Wow.
long time since I've seen that film, but I don't remember any of those people being in it. I remember
All right, sorry.
David Carradine was in several different roles, usually as characters who were trying to teach a lesson to this character Cord, either directly or indirectly.
I stand corrected, but it's better. Bruce Lee and James Coburn were writing the script together when Bruce Lee died.
Yeah, that makes
He
sense.
was not in it,
Yeah, James.
but
Coburn
Christopher
was
Lee was, and
second
Roddy
best.
McDowall.
Circle of Iron. Yeah.
See, Chris,
Wacky.
so many words. I mean, I know we said musicals last time, but fantasy films, I'm telling you, there's so many.
It's a rich vein to mine for sure. So we definitely have to think about which way we want to go with the next one.
What a beautiful problem to have.
Indeed.
That's and again, I like the idea of maybe writing down all the ideas, put them out to the backers, and see what they want to see.
Yeah,
So-
given our various connections, we could get someone from Wizards of the Coast who's worked on Dungeons and Dragons to write about the Dungeons and Dragons movies. And wouldn't that be a treat?
Is that allowed?
I
It's
don't know.
allowed?
Literally ask Peter to do it. Or I'll ask him if you want.
Worth a try. Worth a try.
It's worth a try.
Yes.
Might be able to
Alright.
get the Wayans brothers to do it. They haven't been doing a lot lately. They might have some time on their hands.
Well, people with time on their hands, I think, is our audience. and our creative
And
staff.
our
that matter.
crew potentially. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So yes. Well, okay. Well, on the happy news that we have in fact found our tribe. We were down to our last 2 minutes here, so I thought I'd go around. Bill, I know you're working on some cool stuff. You want to remind the folks about what you got going on?
Yeah, I've got stories in a series of anthologies called Wiley Writers Presents, and the first one is Tales of Dread, which is available now on the Dread Amazon. It's available for order, and then the second volume, which now I can't remember the name, Tales of. So it's Wiley Writers Presents, and it's Tales of, I think, Nightmares is the second one.
Huh.
And that's available for pre-order. That's coming out next month.
And a great
There's
crew of
gonna be
writers on that.
5 or 6 volumes of it, in fact. So
Awesome.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with stories for each one of them, but I'm probably going to be in the first 3 anyway.
All righty. Well, thank you. All right. And now I get the pleasure of asking. To me, there are 2 people in entertainment that you go to for titles. Number one, filmmaker Doris Wishman, who gave us titles like Bad Girls Go to Hell and Let Me Die a Woman. You cannot go wrong with the Doris Wishman film. But the literary equivalent to Doris Wishman, as far as titles go, Alex Bledsoe, please tell us the amazing titles, the amazing books that you're working on now.
Well, the novel that I've got coming out in August is called Dandelion, which is not that amazing as a title, but the book is amazing.
It's elusive. It's good.
I have a short story in an anthology called Turning the Tide. That's the anthology title.
Mhm.
It's to benefit the people of Ukraine, and it's a limited edition. It's only available until the end of the month. but my story in that is called The Girl with All the Swords.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. And Jason, I know you're always into something. What are you up to these days?
Yes, thank you. I am working on a Swords and Cthulhu project called Blood and Doom with renowned role-playing game writer Darren Watts and Belgian luxury critic Dirk van der Eken. Yeah, really.
A great book made by like the ideal people to hang out with after hours at a gaming con. So yes, great.
Yes.
All righty. And Mike, what's coming up this week on the BAMF family of podcasts? Anything else that you're working on at Painting Goat?
I'm loath to promote a podcast because last time I did, it got canceled. So there might be a show tomorrow at noon. There might not. I'm not sure. Fingers crossed. We've been putting out a series of zines because that's what the cool kids are into, and we're cool like that, called Blaster Bolts, which feature both adventures and gaming material for the White Star sci-fi RPG, as well as short space opera or space western stories. We've had some luminaries like Michael Jan Friedman doing stories for us. And right now I am trying to force myself to write the Kickstarter for the anthology compilation of that. So wish me luck. Send me your thoughts and prayers because it's been a chore so far.
Neat. All righty, and for those of y'all that are allergic to comments, here you go. We'll put the link up there one more time. Again, all the support is greatly appreciated. All the shares, retweets, and pledges. It means the world. And hopefully this time next week we'll be popping champagne and making some serious plans for Volume 3. In the meantime, thank you all very much for being with us. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for supporting Creators' Rights at Ghost Show. And have a great evening.
Thank you.